Hello everyone, welcome back to Gears and Glory. Today we've got a special guest on our pod. We have Cody McKay joining us today.
G'day everyone, how are we all?
Hope everyone is doing well. So,
I know, I am. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. I'm revved up. I'm ready to go.
That's the
What a
energy.
pun!
So I think it would be best to just start off by giving our listeners a little bit of a rundown about yourself.
Probably a very quick, or it can be as very long or as very quick as we possibly can, but I'll make the short of it. So, my name's Cody McKay. I am a race driver, and I follow around as a support category to the V8 supercars in what's called an Aussie racing car. So, I've had my racing career. I've obviously stepped through the ranks, I should say. You know, start from go-karting and getting to production cars, and then we finally landed on what we love most, the Aussie racing cars. And we've been racing them for a fair few years. It's taken us all around the country. We're pretty much in a case of we don't say what track have we raced at. We say what haven't we raced at to give you an idea of the experience of what we get at some of the Australia's biggest events. So, I think I've done plenty of laps around plenty of tracks that I never thought I would, and I'm pretty happy about it.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That's so fun. I know Brit and Liv have shown me videos. Sorry, already going off script. Videos of what's the one? Here I go, being American and not knowing anything about Australia. What's the one that you guys showed me the video of? That's like crazy drops and rises in altitude.
Oh, Bathurst.
Yeah, Bathurst. Bathurst is it's definitely one of those tracks. I'll tell you about the first time I ever raced at Bathurst, and I was nervous as hell. It was it becomes such this racetrack with such a stigma for all the Americans or Yanks out there. Think of being on the grid for the Daytona 500 for the first time. Sorry, did I upset you there?
No, it's okay. I just haven't heard that one yet.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, sorry. For everyone out there, my wife is American, so and couple that with Australian slangs and terms and just ribbing each other or translation ribbing, you know, making a joke out of each other all the time.
Thank you so much.
It's just one thing we lean in first. But I find if we all laugh at our insecurities, we become closer friends anyway. So hopefully I don't
100%.
there, but I probably will. So. But yeah, back to Bathurst, I was really scared, and we were out first thing in the morning. It just started raining as well, and this is a course that you have to respect it. You really have to go in there and respect it. But after I did a couple of sessions and got the nerves out of me and all that type of stuff and did a race, I remember a friend coming down there and going, "Oh, what'd you think?" And I said, "Oh, to be honest with you, I don't think it's that bad of a track. It's not that scary." And he goes, "Yeah, it's not that bad, is it? It's just a big open track. It has its moments, but definitely I've had 10 times scarier, moments and tracks that I've raced on, especially the street circuits." So, people usually get a shock when I say Bathurst isn't that bad, but once you've kind of bounced off a few walls at the Gold Coast 500, you know what scary is. So.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense that you say that it's just something that you have to respect. I have not seen much of it, but it does definitely look like something that you go in, like it's its own beast, like it's also alive,
Yeah, that's it. You've got to give everything its respect, but you also put on a stage that you've got to race to your 10/10ths. Our category would get, maybe 40 entrants over a big event, even 30 at a small event. It does have good numbers that follow around, so it becomes super competitive. And because the cars are very, very similar or all the same, if you're 2 or 3 tenths off, that might be 10 positions in qualifying. It's very similar to what you'll see in Formula One, where, you will do your best to get 1 to 2 tenths a lap. And obviously when you're hunting for those couple of tenths, that's when accidents happen. You're really pushing at the upper end.
100%.
Yeah. I know that we went a little bit off script, but I think it was it was good. It was warranted. It was going to happen eventually.
Don't worry about the script. Just throw it out.
Yeah. Put it in the bin. But you mentioned before that you kind of started your journey with karting, but how old were you when you actually first started racing, and what did that journey look like in your childhood?
Yeah, so I definitely got a help with karting from parents. You know, when you're young, you don't have any money. You obviously need your parents to pay for it. There was no doubt we weren't well off in things. So it was more of when we were younger, we had a go-kart. I had to share it with my brother, if anything. Like that was the idea of it. And we'd take turns at the local go-kart track, maybe do a race here and there. Nothing special, but it just wasn't something our parents couldn't go buy $100,000 trailer and give us go-karts every 6 months type stuff. It was just something we did out of passion, if anything. But then when it came to a time where I started working, I became a mechanic, and pretty much with my first couple of paychecks, I was busting to get back into racing again and karting again. Bought the worst go kart I could find and slapped some tires on it and started taking it to the racetrack. And that's how I kind of did it through my later years into my adult years. So whilst I was kind of 12 years behind in the market racing, there wasn't anything that was going to stop me in that sense. So yeah, did a lot of that. Obviously our local karting and some national rounds and state rounds. Pretty much just whatever I could work towards and afford and budget for and get sponsors for at a real small level. That's how I got onto the track. So yeah, it was very skint, as we like to say it. But the thing was, I was just happy to be out there.
Yeah, I think it's definitely crazy just how much the materials you have such an effect, and
Mm,
we see it in so many different like within motorsports, all of the disciplines really of like obviously specifically within F1, the more money you
yeah,
have, like the better your team is going to perform. And as
yeah,
much as that's also a piece of it, there is a huge chunk that is the human element, which is why we watch
mm,
the sport, which is why like
yeah,
they've done AI piloted cars and
mm,
it sucks. It's not entertaining.
yeah,
I'm not invested. They just have a
yeah,
bug and then they crash into something and then whatever.
yeah,
But I think that that's something that's like it's tough to get around in the sport in general. In
mm,
motorsports in general is just like there's kind of like a paywall that
yeah,
the sport's behind, which is really
yeah.
tough.
It is true.
Mm.
It's one thing I talk to heaps and heaps and heaps of people every single day about motorsport and the ins and outs and all that type of stuff that goes in with it. It's there is a paywall. It is a cost. Every single sport that's out there, it's going to cost you. Even if you say, me and my wife had just started playing pickleball on and
Mm.
off, because we've got a local pickleball court. It's very cheap to get into. We bought the bat and ball for $20
Mhm.
at the local Big W, and it costs us about $15 an hour to get onto
Mhm.
to get out there playing. When you pull everything into it, that's extremely cheap, but it's still a cost.
Mhm.
And a lot of people assume that,
Yeah.
oh, we're going to do motorsport, we're going straight to F1. It's not happening. Sorry, there's another path you have to follow for that.
Mhm.
You could spend, I think I did the maths of it, you could spend maybe $1,000 to $2,000 a year and still be competing in a motorsport event. Now, those motorsport events might be hill climbs, which are very cost effective. It might be
Mhm.
super sprints. It might be motorcanas and gymkhans and all those type of events. The local club that I volunteer at up here in Newcastle, we've done the maths and yeah, maybe two or even $3,000. You bought yourself $1,000 car, you take it up there, you rally it around, you do 10 events a year. That's still out there. You're still competing. You're still
Mhm.
doing the same as what some professionals are doing. But it obviously does step up. The more up in the ranks or the more notoriety the sport
Mhm.
is the more value or the more money you have to spend to be a part of it. You know, look at golf. If you want to play a PGA tour or your local club competition, you
Right.
don't have to spend PGA money to be up there. But you can still be playing at the same courses or the same tracks, as we
Mhm.
like to say. For someone that might not be making a heap of money, you can still be out there living your passion and still having a good life around the sport. So there's a lot of misconception around there about how to enjoy it, how to be a competitor. Everyone always sees the top echelon and goes, "We need to go that way." Mate, I just encourage people to make sure they get out there and at least be doing it instead of sitting on their ass. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've still got something in
Yeah,
mind
it's
to go
nice to
for.
make it kind of more accessible. And so you mentioned as well, like kind of starting in a place where you were sharing your cart with your brother and
Yep.
in the journey. What was motorsports kind of always part of like your family life? Was one of your parents into it, or like was this something that you and your brother, or that you pulled your brother in of like, this is cool, I'm going to do this?
Yeah, well, motoring or automotive was definitely a part of our family. Mum hates it, Dad's obsessed with it. So you can
That
imagine,
checks out to
like,
me.
and having, I'm one of three siblings, two
Mm,
boys and a girl. Obviously, my younger sister doesn't really like motorsport, but me and my brother become, we were addicted to it. There's no doubt
mm,
about it. We learned a lot through cars as Dad was fixing cars in the driveway and doing up cars, and he had a pretty impressive lineup of cars as we grew up, and he traded things and all that type of stuff. We just became a part of that. That's what we wanted to do. We found that was whatever Dad does was cool. Then we discovered motorsport or were taught about it at really young ages, and
mm,
we'd just be addicted to it. We would go to all the V8 supercars events that came to New South Wales. So, your Bathurst, your Oran Park, your Eastern Creek,
mm.
when they had a lot of them. We were there. We were getting drivers' autographs. We were in the pits. We were watching every event on TV and all that type of stuff. We collected the models. We were just like the young purist in a
That's
sense.
cool.
So we definitely had a love of it. My interest was more in the mechanical and driving and
Mm-hmm.
engineering side of it. My brother's was in the driving side, but
Mm-hmm.
more the public relations and the media side of it. So
Mm-hmm.
he had a passion for the media side. I had a passion for the racing side and the mechanical side. So that kind of formed our careers. My brother's gone off and he's very successful working for media companies. He just got back from Las Vegas with the NRL as well, like to give you an
Mm.
idea what he's done. And I've taken my
Oh,
buddies to work for
cool.
V8 teams and all
Yeah.
that type of stuff, and done a lot of stuff with them as well. Um, and same thing, I've gone on the racing side and mechanical side of it, and now I've got a mechanical business and I've got a race team and all that type of stuff. And we pretty much let our lives be built around motorsport in a sense, and that just came from that passion of it.
That's really neat.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really cool. I love hearing people's
The
origin
lore.
stories into,
Yeah,
what they're doing now. It's just,
yeah,
yeah. Give me all of the details. No, I love it. Um, yeah, no, it's really good. And I think
yep.
it's important to see everyone's path as well, because
Mm.
everyone gets into it so
Mm.
differently, like either family or friends or
You see
just
one
one day out of
TikTok
the blue,
and then
and
you're
then
Yeah,
you're
hooked.
the only person in
Yeah.
your
yeah,
family that,
like it's
yep. And then you're the
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
only one in your family that
it's very
likes this
common. We
sport.
see it all the time. People come up to us at track and go, "Oh, but my parents hate it, but I love it." We've definitely
Mm.
seen a big increase with that. The
Mm,
drive to survive,
Yeah.
thing has definitely helped it. Like I love it 100%. It's great to bring
mm,
that to people and make them more encouraged about the sport and stuff. But yeah, it's one of those things that when you get to know people, it becomes a pretty supportive and encouraging network that you can get into.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you just got to follow that rhythm, follow your passion. So, but everyone in it is passionate
mm.
about cars. They love it. There's no fair weather supporters in that
Yeah.
sense. It's both feet in or nothing.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. I think something really
Mm.
interesting about the Aussie racing cars is that you can change pretty
Yeah.
much the make of the
Yep.
car quite easily. But can you explain
Yeah,
how that
exactly.
works
So,
from a
well, to
technical
give people that
perspective?
don't know about an Aussie racing car, people might be familiar with Legend Cars, which is a very popular American series, kind of like a feeder series to NASCAR in the early days. They are a really small car,
Hmm.
probably about 3 meters long by around 1.5 meters wide. And they're shaped to look like a Camaro or a Mustang or a Ford Falcon
Mm-hmm.
or a Commodore in a sense. Um,
Mm,
they're just a steel frame with everything in there, a Yamaha motorbike engine, and then there's a fiberglass shell that's put over them. So
Mm-hmm.
the fiberglass shells are pretty interchangeable. The body, in the sense of where you're actually sitting, so the roof and the rear and all that type of stuff's the same. That's just one big, structure. But to change it from, say, like
hmm.
mine's a Camaro at the moment, to change it to a Mustang, all I need to do is put the Mustang front on my car and then change the stickers over. So I would change
Mm-hmm.
the rear car lights to make it look like more of a
Right.
Mustang and just have a Mustang front end. So they've developed the car. Say maybe I
Yeah.
might be, because I'm a GM style car, I might be talking to a Ford dealership and go, hey, I want you to get on board, or they want to partner with me. They go, well, we're not going to have a Camaro as our car we want you to race. I go, not a problem. I'll just buy another front end from Aussie Racing Cars and swap it over. And it's done right there and then. And, those whole
Wow.
front clips come off in the space of, less than 5 minutes. We take them off to service the engine and stuff. So we've got a lot of the things that motorsport wish it could be. In the sense of imagine NASCAR or V8 supercars, them having a problem with a manufacturer supplier, and they could just swap the bodywork over and be a different brand tomorrow. It's not going to affect the racing.
Mm-hmm.
No one really cares in that sense. It's just more of a marketing guise on that sense. So yeah, it does work very beneficial in that way.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's so neat.
Cool.
It's definitely very unique.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And for yeah, oh, definitely. I mean, the closest thing I would describe it would be like when they change the front and rear
Yeah.
wings, dependent on the track in F1. But if it doesn't really, change
Yep.
the technical side of how the car
Yeah.
actually performs, then
Oh,
that's
exactly.
not even anything to
Yeah,
compare it to
we've
if
seen
it's more
cars
just
that
for
have
looks.
literally, had an accident or something like that, or had problems in a race. And at race one, they're like a Mercedes shape, and then race two, they're a Toyota Orion shape because they've only had a Toyota Orion front end and spare. So it's literally they've changed manufacturers in between races at the rounds.
That's
That's how
crazy.
easy it is. Yeah.
Oh my
Wow.
God. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, that's cool. It's so
Plug and
unique.
play.
Yeah. And for our non-Australian listeners, can you give us a little bit of a, I guess, overview and
Yeah,
describe
so the
the V8
best for
supercars?
if everyone's familiar with NASCAR, think of NASCAR, but just road circuits. They do share a lot between each other now. Like you've got your GM versus Ford in there, and now coming on Toyota. So the manufacturers are going to be very lined up. They are a V8 engine. Where V8 supercars will use a sequential gearbox instead of like a four-speed, but I'm still kind of getting up to date with a lot of NASCAR. I believe they're using a sequential box now. Very entertaining to watch. Big noise, big power, big personalities, and everything that go from it there as well. But look, it's the main thing I would say is that V8 supercars just don't do oval racing because oval racing just isn't popular except for Speedway. In Australia, we just haven't got the people to support it. Where it's the other way. It feels like that NASCAR is only discovering street circuits and rovals and road courses and all that type of stuff.
Please don't make
Now,
me watch any more oval racing. I watched the Indy 500 this past IndyCar season when Joseph Newgarden won, and I was like, "This is it."
Yeah,
They just left.
That's
all they've got.
It's an acquired taste. It definitely is. If anything, I thought that very long ago, but as kind of Shane Van Gisbergen's gotten into NASCAR and all that type of stuff, it's one thing I've been starting to follow more closely. Even I haven't watched the Daytona 500 in a long time. Not any other reason. I've just been busy. Unfortunately, I've always catch the recap. But I watched the race the other week, and I was like, this is just exciting in a real technical point of view because the Aussie racing cars will share a lot of similarities in drafting. That's one thing that you have to do to be quick. Knowing who you can partner with as well in the drafting, who's going to be your teammate, who's going to work for you, who's going to work against you. There's like some people you follow and they will do anything to put you in the wall, and you're like, oh, geez.
Yeah.
But the personalities help a lot with that as well, with NASCAR in a sense. IndyCar, you can see that they've gone more towards the road circuits and stuff like that. They're kind of a mixture in that, but it's very like there's definitely an acquired taste to it. I have seen popularity in both those series really popping off. just as people are wanting to know more and as it's getting more interesting and more controversial and all that type of stuff as well. So we are definitely seeing the trends towards that way.
Yeah, I figure with ovals, it's more about, and like NASCAR specifically, my coworker was asking me about NASCAR today, and I was like, I do not know anything about NASCAR. But I think it's more of like once you know, you just have to know a little bit more about it to give the ovals color. Because otherwise it's like, okay, yeah, you're going to turn left 4 times, you do a lap, whatever. There's so many more laps. There's so much more, I'm sure, depth and color to it that I simply don't have because I haven't spent the time like investing in that knowledge. But I was like, they go 4 wide at a time, which is insane. And just like barreling down the track, which is crazy. Like just conceptually, do it 200 times. Maybe I lose a little bit of interest. But I do think it's mostly just I probably just need to like read up about what makes NASCAR NASCAR. You know, it wouldn't be such a big sport if they were really just going around in circles.
Yeah, there is a lot to it, but you know, it's kind of like we've seen such an uptake in people loving Formula One. You know, even girls like yourself loving Formula One, you know, which is the biggest shock to a lot of people. You go to the Melbourne Grand Prix now, and it's like all the guys that like the V12 screaming engines have been pushed aside because all these new age supporters want to come in, which is one thing I absolutely love about it. But there's no doubt, you know, when you look at a lot of motorsports, there's the sports that have got the glitz and the glamour and the really nice side to it. F1 does that really well. V8 supercars do that in an aspect as well. And then there's a side of the sport where you see like you call it, you know, the redneck or the bogan side of it, you know, so that I'd say the diehards in that sense where, you know, that's where your speedway comes in and your NASCAR comes in and all that type of stuff. It's real rough, it's ready, it's uncut, you know, it's kind of like an uncut gem, you know. You can appreciate it, but you're confused at why it's not worth what it is now. So it's, you know, the same like all sports. There's different sport. Like you could maybe say like rugby union is probably a good example. You'd see that in more private school boys and all that type of stuff like that. You go towards your rugby league. That's more of like the rough and the ready and the you know the Penriths and the Blue Mountains and the Newcastles and all those areas. I know the Americans might not understand the analogy a bit, but yeah, it's still essentially nearly the same sport, but they're you know made for different you know cuts of people in that sense. So yeah, it's exactly right. That's the best
different
way
demographics.
to put it in this. I'm trying to search for words at the moment.
Oh, we always have trouble searching
sometimes
for
I
words
just
in
give
this pod.
up. I was just like, we need to move on from that. It's not coming to me.
I learn with my hands, not with my mind. So you know, I just speak.
Well, no, so you've given us all of this really great insight. Like it feels like we're getting insider information right now. So while we're tapped in, what would you say? Like we've talked about like the positive and the cool and the different and like the variety of it, but what would you say is the most challenging part of working in this industry, in motorsports specifically, that like people like that are getting like the like makeup and hair and makeup side of things, like post-production, like what are we not seeing that you would say is one of the more challenging aspects?
Yeah, that's a really great question because it's one question that never really gets addressed and kind of gets swept under the rug in a lot of aspects of sport. I'll probably, from a driving sense, because there's many different industries in motorsport, which is really great. You know, I think even I've seen this morning, AlphaTauri's made a content creators like initiative and guide to help.
I got that email.
Yeah, there you go. I just seen it on TikTok and I go, yeah, I just seen it on TikTok.
I'll have to look into that.
Oh yeah, whatever. I don't need that. I'm well too far gone for that. But what we're seeing here, from a driver's side of view is people think that, you know, you start out in karts with your dad or something like that. And if you're really good, a team picks you up. And then if you're good in that team, a team picks you up and all that type of stuff. That is probably the biggest lie that is spread around. Because, yes, the talent does go a long way. But if you don't have money to back you, your talent's worth nothing. And we always hear the story of, I missed out on that drive because so-and-so with more money got it over me. The business of motorsport is a business. It's very expensive to run the cars. There are people that own the cars. There are people that need to get paid. There is staffing. There's all these things that come come into it. You don't have a big clubhouse of drivers just ready to select whenever you want to go.
Yeah.
These people need to have money. And the main way in Australia of how they get that money is either through, let's call it rich parents, if that's a way to go. And also the backing from that driver. So if the driver has got a product or a sponsor that is following them and wants to push them through a career, they can do that. Even in the sense it's very popular from what we've seen that if there's someone that's really good, that business people will invest in them. And when I say invest, they're still expecting a return. So I believe it was James Courtney or Winterbottom, if someone has to correct me on this, that did go to F1. They raised some money from sponsors and businesses who were looking for an investment. He still had to pay out that investment because, they ended up having an accident and they couldn't make it to F1, even though everything was going well. They went down to V8 supercars, still racing that, still had to pay their investors off, So when it comes to a lot of these ways, it's really creative, but it is a business. And when I got into business and run my business, I run it the same way as I run my race team. It's there to bring money in and spend money and all that type of stuff. We need to make sure there's cash flow and everything. So that's probably the biggest rumor that goes into it. Not that I don't hate it, to be honest with you. I hated it at the start. I don't hate it because it's made better business people, like in a sense. So even, they're there negotiating. They're there talking. It's not a lie that even when I'm at a racetrack, I'm negotiating stuff for my own business. We might do a deal and that reflects on how my mechanical shop will run and everything else like that as well. We connect them all together, which is a smart way of how to go racing at those levels as well. As for other things that you might not see outside of the driving world, is probably if anyone else is looking for a career in it, whether it's media, mechanics, or that type of stuff, is motorsport is a small niche community. It looks huge. Once you get into it, you don't realize how small of a community it is. And one of those things is everyone does know everyone. Everyone's got a friend. Everyone's taking care of everyone. Everyone's fighting against each other as well. That's one thing that also happens as well. But when you kind of you realize that, you might be rubbing shoulders next to your favorite driver that you've idolized, and you might hate them after a meeting because they're acting like a brat because, everyone acts normal and everyone acts like themselves around that type of stuff. So when you take the cameras off, you really do have that small niche community. So, that's where it's not like there's big dividers. Everyone's pretty close to each other.
Yeah, it really is all about who you know, especially in Aussie motorsport. Like Liv and I interviewed Summer Rental, I think 2 weeks ago, and she knows a driver that I'm doing socials for in the Excel series. And I was like, oh my God, I know Monique, like that's crazy. And even, around, because I'm based in Canberra and we have the TCR comes and does a race here. And, Harry Bates is from Canberra as well. And I've met people that know him and I'm like, oh my God, it's just, it's so small. Even like, it's strange. But I think the business side is definitely something that people do not necessarily ignore, but they just don't focus on because it's nothing that affects them. So they're like, oh, I don't have to worry about learning that or understanding that side of things. So I think it's good to hear what that looks like from an insider perspective. Yeah. So throughout your career, you've done some driver education, driver training. What do you see, or what have you seen is the biggest mistake that people make when it first comes to racing?
There's a lot that goes into racing. There is a lot of small mistakes that probably make a big mistake, and I probably wouldn't even call them mistakes because they just don't know what they're doing yet. They're there to be educated and all that type of stuff as well. One thing I hate the most, and last time I made a TikTok video about this, it went viral good, but the response and flack I copped from it was unbelievable. I had people calling my business imitating themselves as like head driving inspectors, calling me wrong and all that type of stuff. I had threats and all this type of stuff, and I'm sitting there
What?
going, "Well, hold on, I've got two Bathurst trophies behind me, but I'm wrong." Like it's all these people think that they're better than me and know better, and there's no doubt about it. I went out there and I attacked, and I was like, if you're a driving instructor and you're teaching people to drive like this, you're absolutely wrong, because this is why I drive like this. And the most common thing I would have is people with automatic cars, so any car with two pedals, and they use the right foot for both the acceleration and brake. And that's just one thing in motorsport. It's just like a massive no-no. Like you need to use, you've got 2 feet, use it. So it's very common that, say when I'm racing in a sense, I would use your right foot for the accelerator, the left foot for the brake. That helps a lot with like trail braking and loading the car up. And there's a lot of technicals on that. But when I started analysing that on a road going issue, so just driving around the streets, I found that your left foot could be trained for, braking quicker, more effectively, sooner. And it also took out the confusion of what is my right foot doing. You might see a lot of videos out there with a little old lady that's like in a shopping centre, and all of a sudden she's drove through the middle of the shopping centre while trying to park a car. And it usually becomes from confusion of what one foot's doing, because you're not looking down there. You can't see it. You're only feeling. So if you go, oh no, I'm going too quick, and you just put your foot down and it slips off the brake, or maybe it hits the wrong pedal, the effects of that are tenfold. You're just going to drive through stuff, and then by the time you take off the accelerator and then onto the brake and figure out what's going on, how many people have you mowed over? That's the case I say with it. So I always teach, especially with my young students, that we use our left foot to brake, and it's kind of like our left foot is the emergency pedal. It's the oh no, it's the oh shit, something's going wrong. I want to stop the car. Even if your foot is full on the accelerator, so your right foot's full on the accelerator, and you put your left foot full on the brake, you will come to a stop. It's not going to be nice. You're going to burn brakes out. You're going to do everything, but you're stopping the car, which is the main thing. I'm like, we need to make sure we can stop the ride whenever we can. And then through teaching, you can, you can react better. You can feel a lot better. You can control the car better. I've been in passenger seats many a times, and they're hurting along 100 mile an hour, and then all of a sudden they get confused what the pedals are doing, how to brake, and the controls and everything like that. It gets out of hand. So it's probably a long-winded way to answer the question in a sense. But in driver training, I really, really do appreciate people out there learning in an automatic to use both feet, because it just makes you such a better driver. The cost of wearing out a set of brakes is a lot better than crashing into the back of someone's house or car at all times. It takes a bit of time to get used to, but as I say, if anyone's ever gone go-karting before, or high-karting or anything with their friends, you can pick it up in a lap. It's something you can easily do, and people can do it. They just refuse to learn it, in a sense. So, that was definitely a very big week of go through one of the videos, look at the comments. You'll be
I will now. I'm gonna go and have a deep dive. Yeah. No, I think it's interesting because the very few times that I have gone to a go-kart track, you're right, the pedals are ones on either side, so you do have to left foot brake. But I think so I learned how to drive in a manual. So I had the clutch there, so I had to right foot brake. But then I sold that car and I got an auto, and I was like, oh, well, I'll just left foot brake because my, left foot's hanging there not doing anything. And the first time I did it, oh my God, I almost threw myself through the windshield, because your like muscle memory is so used to just slamming the clutch into the floor that I just touched the brakes, and oh my God, I gave myself whiplash.
Yeah. Well,
but you do get used to it.
I'd probably even say another thing that I've really learned talking about the brake. Once they do that the first time, they get so scared of the brake and buy a left foot brake, and they go, I'm never going to do that again. I hate that. That's horrible. But a lot of the times I've found with people driving, especially when we put them on a track and test them, is they've never actually, or it's been an extremely long time before them having to hit the brakes and the car skid and come to a stop. So they've never felt it, or it's very rarely they have felt it. They don't know what it's like when ABS comes on. They don't know what happens when it skids. So when I teach my 12-year-olds and 14-year-olds and 18-year-olds how to drive for the first time, and this is the first time they've been in a car, within the first 10 minutes, they are learning how to lock the brakes up and how to, what happens when the car skids out of control. And then we teach how to keep it in control during those times. And it's amazing how much they pick it up and continue that on and then become comfortable with it. So no one's out there teaching them how to brake. When you're another good example, like when you're taught to get your license, the driving instructor never teaches you how to avoid a collision. They just teach you how to stop at a stop sign, how to turn left, how to indicate, how to do the typical road rules. They don't teach you, a child's walked in the front of you. What do? Do you swerve? What controls do you touch? Like at the stage, one of my sponsors is helping me get my pilot's license at the moment, and we spend more time learning how to get that airplane into a safer situation than what it is, than how to just get it in a safe situation. Every course is like, this plane's going to crash and die soon. We need to make sure we get it back in the situation. And it's the better way of learning, because now I can, if a plane starts to drop out of the sky, I know what to do. I know what controls to grab and how to trim it and all that type of stuff. No one's ever taught me. And that's why we have so many accidents on the road. Advanced driver training is just a thing that's been thrown away. So, that's probably all the things that quit me and grind my gears when it comes to driver training.
Yeah. Well, so kind of in the same vein then. So that's maybe the thing that is like the biggest pet peeve. But then when you've been working and coaching, what's the toughest piece of feedback that you've had to give? Like maybe a situation where somebody wasn't open to hearing that kind of feedback, or a note that's like hard to give to someone.
Yeah, I've trained a lot of different people, a lot of different ages, a lot of different with people with disabilities and stuff like that as well. It's the way I like to train is kind of firm but fair. Obviously, I want to make sure that they're okay first, make sure they're feeling comfortable, and make sure that we're both in that comfortable situation before we do anything. There's no doubt that I've had to scream at people to hit the brakes because they just haven't listened to instructions. I remember years and years ago, I was doing a corporate training day, and the first lap out, I said, when I say brake, make sure you hit the brake. And we were braking, but probably only at like 10%. And I'm like, mate, this thing's out of control. And I had to kind of pull up and say, hey, mate, like when I'm saying to brake, I'm saying to hit that brake as hard as possible. Like, think it's an X of yours or something like that, to stomp down on it. I don't know if it. So, yeah, I've definitely
Whatever
seen,
it takes.
drivers or instructors getting out of cars and scream at people and all that type of stuff, which is, it's the wrong way to do it. If you're doing that, you shouldn't be training in any way means. I've had that happen to me as well, a driver trainer jumped out and said, you need to slow down and stop and do this. And then I got in with the next instructor and he's like, mate, you know what you're doing, you're fine. You do get a lot of wrong instructors in there. But look, I've been pretty good, but then again, I take it on you only have to really get upset in emergency situations and don't carry that like upsetness after the fact. If you can't slow down, explain the situation and talk them through what's going on and have that personal connection, I'm the wrong person to train you for. So it's at the end of the day, sometimes they're not even my cars, so if they crash it or whatever. So
it must be tough. Like people getting wrapped up in obviously we're all in our own worlds, like getting wrapped up in yourself and not really realizing, like, I do think that's so interesting of you were talking about as well. Like you're rubbing shoulders with like people you might really like and people you might not really like, and everyone's competing, or you're on the same side. Somebody has a job change and all of a sudden you hated each other, but now you're best friends in the same department.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to have to like take yourself out of it a little bit and like have kind of a glass wall between like, okay, this is our interpersonal relationship. Here's our professional relationship. Like here's our racing relationship. Here's our any other sort of relationship we may or may not have, which is so interesting because I am not capable of doing that.
Yeah,
I know myself.
It's taken me a lot to learn that. There's no doubt about that. I think teaching kids has definitely helped me that as well. And you've got to think that every time I jump in a car with a passenger seat, I have not got control of that situation other than what that person's doing. Yes, I could probably pull a handbrake up. I can help them steer them, but if it gets out of control, it just gets out of control. That's making sure you're calm in those situations is the main thing. There's a lot of people that just can't handle stress, and I don't like them as instructors. If you can't put yourself in a worrying situation, then you're not in that position to teach. But yeah, it's I've definitely seen the worst. I've seen the best. There's no reason to sit there and be going off at them unless they are really doing something to extremely harm you, which is very rare. These people pay their money or want to be in those situations. They're not there because they're forced to be there. They're there because they want to be there. They want to perform. All their goals are different in what they want to achieve. So making sure you know that from the start, what are you looking for? Okay, I want to set the fastest lap time. I'm not going to be able to come back here in 12 months, 2 years. So think of like a customer-based experience with a corporate guest. Okay, mate, well, let's do a little bit of talking before we get into the car and make sure that we can follow that process and then make sure we're doing the right thing. I find it simple. Other people don't. But it's all horses for courses in a sense.
Love that. Yeah, no, I agree. I think kids as well definitely change your how you react to a situation as well, because sometimes they don't know any better. At least with adults, they've driven on the road and stuff. There are sometimes bad habits and reasons as to why they do it that way, but sometimes kids just don't know better, and you definitely change your tone.
I would probably say that kids are 10 times better to train than adults. And
they don't have any bad habits yet. They're exactly like a block of marble ready for carving.
Yep. Exactly right. So, it's in some situations they might get a little bit out of control, but you can pull it back pretty quickly. Trying to tell a stubborn 40-plus-year-old male that's just bought a massive sports car to stop trying to kill me is how I kind of put it there.
I'd love to walk away from this.
I was like, I sometimes pull them up and say, hey, let's just, because you can't just pull them up on the track. It's a high stress situation. You've got to pull them back into the pits and say, all right, can we just come back into the pits quickly? I just want to go over a couple of notes. You come back and then you just explain the seriousness of it. Hey, look, when you went through that corner, I know it was pretty amazing and stuff like that. I don't believe you got the control there. Let's focus on this area first. And then you can go on your way as well. And you say, look, I'm in the car as well. Yeah. I know how hard you can push it. And when I see the brake marker go past me and it's behind me, I know that we're in trouble. So usually that's why I yell in the car. So just making sure that they understand that. And usually after that, they're pretty understanding. They're like, oh, okay, that's good. And then they'll find that as they drive through the day, they go, oh, I feel like I'm driving slower. And I go, yeah, but look at the lap times. And they look at the lap times and go, oh, I'm 2 seconds faster. And I go, that's what we teach. It shouldn't feel like it's out of control. We need to get a regular lap time because that's race pace. And we need to be able to do the same time. If you're 4 seconds off each lap, mate, what are you doing in a sense?
That's so cool. It's about the consistency. Well, and obviously safety above everything, but like the consistency and like making things like tenable, like that you can maintain that. So.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think you've gone over, heaps, and we've learnt so much about you and Aussie motorsport in a way, which is great. But we do this thing when we have guests on the pod where we do a little quick fire round of some fun, lighthearted questions. Don't think too much of it. So. First thing that comes to mind. Okay, cool. Well, if you could race in any motorsport series with any team, any car on any track, what would it be?
Great question. I did believe racing our series at the Monaco Grand Prix will be a dream come true because it's never going to happen. We know that, but I think our cars are just suited towards it. Other than that, I would really love to. I haven't done the Spa Francorchamps, Belgium. Yet I would love to do that in a GT3 car, any of them, to be honest with you. But I do really like my historic stuff as well. So I would really like to get myself in like an old Formula One car, old GTP car or something like that. Even the old Toka series cars and stuff like that. I pretty much, if it's got four wheels, I just dream of racing it in sun aspect. So it's kind of a broad question me and my mechanic ask ourselves every time that we go away racing, as we're doing tailgate racing every weekend. But yeah, I'll probably say they're probably the line of an absolute dream. I probably wouldn't even want to do modern Formula One. I think it's probably I just like the older stuff. I'm a bit of a purist there. So.
Absolutely. Okay, rapid fire question number 2. Be honest. Are you going to judge someone if they come into your garage with a specific car? Do you judge them based off of the car that they're bringing with them? Or like if you're out on the street, see someone behind a wheel, are you passing judgment? If so, which ones and why?
Yes, I can't even sugarcoat it. Thinking about it and going, I should be really careful. But it's probably on the highway that I do a lot of judging, in the sense because you learn a lot about driving and seeing how people drive.
Yeah.
People in like later model 4-wheel drives doing 130, 140 on the highway in the right lane, I'm judging big time. I am just like, one, I bet you can't drive. Two, I bet you that car is not set up to handle driving if something went wrong. And three, how closely you're following that little old lady up their ass. Like, give them a breath. Like,
oh my God.
They're probably the biggest judgment I would have there.
Okay, very fair.
Always, I don't know if it's the case in New South Wales, but in Canberra, definitely, it's the Raptor and Rangers that are the biggest
we're
culprits.
seeing a lot. Like I say most 4-wheel drive utes because I've seen a lot of them, especially going between Newcastle and Sydney. Even we came back from Sydney yesterday, and there was like this Volkswagen Amarok that was literally bump drafting people in the fast lane at 130k an hour. Their right lane entitlement just is like blows my mind in a sense, and it's just that if something goes wrong, like anyone just has to touch the brake once, and that's what ends up in accidents. They've never followed someone at 230 k's an hour bump drafting each other down the straight. They know. I know how quickly it can go wrong. I've seen how bad it can go really quickly. So you've got to have that respect, and you're doing that to someone that you've never met before. Come on. I think it's time for a driving lesson, or maybe just throw your license out. I don't want you on the road anyways.
Public transport only.
I would encourage it.
Yeah.
I agree.
No, I love a train ride. Listen, I was talking about the railway system in America today. I was like, if we had a real railway system set up, I would never take an airplane ever again. Put me on a train and I'm happy.
It is the most horrible system I've seen in the world. I thought Sydney trains were bad. Jesus Christ, getting the train over in America is like pulling teeth.
I used to live on the East Coast, and I would take the Amtrak to New York City, to Boston. And I was like, if we had this actually do stuff other places, wow, unstoppable. You wouldn't be able, literally wouldn't be able to stop me.
Yeah, exactly right.
But okay, on a different side. So we've judged people for their cars. If you had unlimited budget, best cars, what top 3 cars? If you had all the money in the world, Lawrence Stroll has just adopted you, right? You've got all the money in the world.
Daddy Stroll.
What are the first 3 cars that you're buying with it?
All right, if Daddy Stroll's my dad, so and I've gone, Daddy, please, I would like. Yeah,
they don't have to be road
that
cars.
That is correct as well. I do love my Porsches. There's no doubt about it. I've got this thing that I just love about Porsches.
You're speaking Brit's language right now.
Yeah, that's it. I've just picked up my first one the other day, which I'm really excited about. But it's
he was one of these. They are.
No, I can't even get the hand signals right on this thing.
It's just a circle.
It's just a circle.
It's the effort that counts.
What I mean.
It's the moon emoji.
Look, the Singer 911 Porsches that I've seen coming out just look like an absolutely amazing car. I'm a very big purist on a classic car as a real car. Our cars,
Mm.
got to feel like it's got to kill you at any time. You've kind of got to like tame them like like a feral dog or a wild animal in the sense. And if you don't get that, you lose that. So I'd definitely put down as the 911 Singers, which I believe are just that better model. Other couple of cars, oh geez, this is a very tricky one because I just love so many different cars.
Yeah.
I really wanted to give the classic Honda NSX a go. I've got a friend with one, but he hasn't let me, so I'll have to keep begging. But probably a Ferrari F40, like that is just one
Yeah.
thing. It's just sex on
Of
wheels,
course.
like it's a timeless classic that just deserves respect.
Yeah.
Wherever you go is probably another model. I'll probably say those two. Third one, it'd definitely be something racing, something 80s. I'd say like a classic Le Mans car, like the old Jags or the old an old Porsche or something like that as well. I would say it'd be my absolute number one. But then again, I just love all cars, so I'd probably
It's a
put
tough
them
question.
first. It's a really tough question. You could sit there and talk for hours about something like that. So, but I would say that's where I'm probably lining up first.
That's cool. That's really, yeah. I mean,
yeah. The theme
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sensing is
definitely
classic.
and I can't disagree with that.
Yeah, I've driven a few like new age supercars, and they have left me very underwhelmed. With
Okay.
their performance is unbelievable, but it feels like you put your granny in the seat and she could drive it down the shops the next day. If you're buying a supercar, the things should be personalized. It should be hard to start. It should be have a heavy clutch. It should be terrible to drive around the streets, but then when you get it up and open on the track, it should feel like it's just coming alive. Same as like our race cars. To get them at low speed, they are horrible. They are so hard to drive. But when you get them singing off the red line, they are just so effortless and so easy. So yeah, I would say that the classics are the cars that you got to have.
Yeah. Very fair.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I can appreciate that. 100%,
Yes.
especially the Porsche side of things. My favorite
Yes,
manufacturer, hands down. And I know we've spoken a lot about Aussie motorsport in this episode, but to tie back to our roots, we are primarily an F1 pod. So can you let our listeners know what your team and driver that you're supporting for the 2025 season are?
I'm definitely on whoever the Aussie is whoever I'm supporting. So Oscar is definitely one.
Yeah, you going Oscar or Jack this year?
Oscar. I'll probably say Oscar and Oscar only. I'm not a fan of the other side, but even Liam Lawson, I think he is like just an amazing driver and someone that deserves to be there as well. He is one that's had to work hard for that seat.
Absolutely.
Very, very down to earth guy.
Yeah.
He brings the personality that Ricardo's probably missing. Or not being able to that Ricardo and Bottas have kind of had. So Liam's bringing that personality there as well. So they're definitely my two favourite drivers that I'm supporting. Being Australian, you follow the Aussies, which it's if they decided they were going to freaking another team tomorrow, I would still be there supporting it. But it's definitely one thing that I do really love the sport. Once you kind of get into the sport and start racing, you don't get too wrapped up in the drivers and teams. You just love the sport. So even when the Verstappen and Hamilton kind of drama was happening and that was on the high thing, the one thing I could just come back to is like the sport is profiting off this. Whoever wins, I don't care. I just want to be entertained, which is what a lot of people want.
Yeah.
The last V8 Supercar race did that as well. I'm a Holden guy. I like my Holdens. Don't get me wrong. I still really like Fords. I've had Fords before. They don't turn me off. But the Waters and Brock Feeney battle was like the best. And even when Waters crossed the line first, I was still jumping and shouting, saying that was awesome. So That's the kind of way
Yeah.
that I go through. But yeah, it definitely any Aussie or stolen Aussie, I like to say New Zealander, we just make them our own. They're the ones I'm
Yep.
supporting.
Very fair.
Yep.
Can't fault you for that one.
Yep.
Logan Sargent was there for a minute.
Yep.
Yeah.
I bought his hoodie.
Yeah, well, he was yeah, next question.
It's okay. It's all right. It's all right.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, Soph, do you have any last questions?
Well, probably way too many for, keeping this to a decent time, so.
I'll never let you ask them again. That's
Another
it.
time,
Sorry,
another time.
this is your last chance. I'll never talk to you again. No, I'm kidding. You can always ask questions.
One and done. Okay, cool. Well, before you go, can you let our listeners know where's best to find you? You mentioned TikTok before.
We're all
Website,
on social
LinkedIn.
media. So if you look at Cody McKay Motorsports, so that's MCKAY, you can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on TikTok, YouTube. They're probably our most active social channels that we like to use, although I've been away for a little bit, so I haven't been doing anything. That's how you can contact us the best, reach out, see the behind the scenes, see what we're up to and all the silly stuff that we do. Time in, time out. I suggest follow all of them because they help me and I want to help you guys and bring some great content to you.
Yeah, perfect. We'll link them in the show description as well so that they're easy to find. But yeah, thank you so much, Cody. It's been a pleasure.
No, thank you, guys. I hope I answered all your questions if I could. And yeah, I just want to say I'd like to thank you guys for doing such a top-notch job as well. You girls are absolutely killing it. I love it when girls come into the sport and really show everyone how it should be done. I tell you what, I'd probably have my ass kicked around the track by more girls than guys. They can be awesome drivers and they can do anything in this sport. So yeah, you guys are doing awesome. Good on you.
Thank you very much. And we
thank you so much.
Yes. Hold on, we got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I got
to say bye. Bye.
See you.